Personally, I think the most adequate description of the two most recent series of the Doctor Who revival can be summarised by the term mixed bag, in that we have had some absolute shockers and some absolute bangers springing up here, there and everywhere. Unfortunately, I wouldn't exactly say the episodes are consistent in quality, and this Christmas special is no exception. Perhaps Moffat has grown tired of his ludicrously convoluted overarching storylines at this point and wished for something simpler, although contrived, to kickstart Series 10 off. Either that, or he's been watching far too many superhero movies of late and saw the recent economic appeal in them and has decided to make one of his own. All the credit to him though. I doubt anybody really remembered Doctor Who was even on this Christmas because I completely forgot. I think what is a shame though is that we didn't see the new companion at all. They hyped us all up for the chaos that could potentially ensue back in April, and we were stuck with Matt Lucas instead. And apparently he's not going anywhere soon either. Anyway, I'll get onto all that in a bit. I'm going to run through what I thought sucked and didn't suck in this year's Christmas special of Doctor Who with you guys, and come to some form of consensus at the end of the video. The episode is located where countless other superhero tales are, in New York. How imaginative. The Doctor needs help from a clueless kid named Grant, who explains that he's situated on the 60th floor of this building, revealing the extremely large drop that the Doctor somehow oversaw when making this so-called trap. When he tries to open the window, bizarrely, the colour of his screwdriver has been changed again to green instead of blue now. I did think it was a nice little detail adding a ring to the Doctor's hand, continuing the story from last year's Christmas episode. Having said that, the episode didn't exactly feel like an episode of Doctor Who. Perhaps a more adequate description of the plot is something along the lines of Superman retold whilst observed by two strange British blokes. To put this into perspective, we are even thrown the whole product placement curveball when we see the kids' room, completely covered in Marvel wallpaper and a Superman comic book that is brought right in front of our faces. I don't know how much the BBC was paid to put all that in there, but perhaps it is just simply demonstrating how infested our culture has become by this stuff. The Doctor then leads the small child onto the roof of the building and pulls out a glass of water from thin air. He doesn't explain the reason for it, and like many that we have seen before, this is just another unfunny gag they throw in there to take up screen time. It's so odd because there was a really funny line that came just before it that basically debunked Spider-Man's whole existence, displaying the Doctor's lack of interest towards the whole superhero phenomena. But then the stupid kid goes and eats the gemstone, doesn't he? I guess in America they don't teach kids not to take sweets from strangers. The other thing is, this is a small child. A gentleman is swinging from a rope outside his window. I'm surprised he didn't shit himself and run crying to his mum that a strange man is peering inside his window in the middle of the night. They then find themselves stuck on top of the Empire State Building, a location we have already visited nearly 10 years ago. Seriously, what is it with this show and getting the Doctor to hang onto a tall tower for whatever reason it may be that week? Back in the present, Lois Lane, Lucy Fletcher, asks some questions about this mysterious research facility. For some reason, Nardole is here too and slows the pace of the scene down considerably with his bizarre question about the little boys' room. What other kind of little boys' room was he talking about? Oh wait, we don't know? Oh, okay, we'll just forget about it then. Wonderful! Later on in the day, both of these characters then sneak into the building at midnight, where the budget of the episode is clearly displayed as Matt Lucas talks to his coat. It's so odd to think that this was either written into the script or he was asked to do so whilst filming. They couldn't have just given him a walkie-talkie or something? When Mr. Brock is then taken to the brain room, we see eyes peering out from within the brains. This part, although a little bit comical, intrigued me somewhat, making me wonder what kind of bad guys the Doctor would have to deal with in this episode. Unfortunately, it is later revealed that they aren't anything new, in that we saw a whole bunch of them appear on the ship in the last Christmas episode. I do actually remember talking specifically about how it was a disappointment we don't know much about them, and one could argue we learn more about them from this episode. Turns out as well that the brains do indeed occupy ordinary human bodies, so their heads are fucking useless at being a protective mechanism for whatever is stored inside. No wonder Hydroflax managed to put them all on his leash last year. For some unknown reason, call it petrification if you like, I call it bullshit, Brock makes no attempt to escape from the room he's in despite the ample length of time he has to do so. You have just seen a man click his face back in place with blue blood coming out, and you are just going to fucking sit there? Then our main characters are held at gunpoint only for Superman, the Ghost, to come along and break some glass. The German guy then announces that the glass was designed to withstand 4 nuclear blasts. Oh, come on, you know that's bullshit. This is just plain shitty writing. I don't know the science of whether or not glass can actually protect you from a nuclear blast. I highly doubt it though. But if you were expecting 4 of them to hit your building, maybe you would build it underground, where all the other nuclear shelters are. Why couldn't you have just said it was bulletproof, Moffat? That's a thing. That would adeptly describe this superhero's strength, and make sense. But 4 nuclear bombs? Nah, mate. Nah. So Lucy is rescued by the Ghost and looks completely oblivious to all of the bizarre events she has just witnessed whilst in flight. Yeah, everything is great. I'm having a wonderful day. Thanks for asking. I did find the section back at the apartment rather amusing, as the group kind of try to explain what's going on without revealing Grant to be a superhero. Nardol's strange comments and behaviour I found, oddly, quite funny. He certainly isn't as annoying and pointless in this episode as he was in his last appearance. We then see another flashback of Grant in high school with the song Loaded by Primal Scream playing underneath, which is a bit of an odd song choice considering the song is about having a good time and getting loaded, which is kind of the opposite of what Grant is experiencing here. Lucy then appears again out of the window, armed with Mr. Huffle. Oh, God. Doctor, just grow some balls. How are you upset by this annoying toy? Just throw it out the fucking window or something. Hey Lucy, why not cooperate instead of interrogate? Oh yeah, she's an American. That means they torture people. The worst part about this segment though is the fact that all the dialogue is just exposition we already know about. It's just 3 minutes of bringing Lucy up to speed. Boring. Fortunately, Grant picks up the pace again by calling her and putting on his Batman voice. Now, it irritated me that this idiot couldn't hear an echo coming from her kitchen whilst this was all happening, but stylistically this segment was excellent, and it's a shame they didn't put more of these quirky little things in there throughout the episode. The framing and editing of this sequence is obviously made to look like a comic book, but I loved that the characters would sometimes overlap over the boundaries. The music was great, they even used one shot in a cinematic aspect ratio for dramatic effect. I loved it. Just to top it all off though, there was some really good chemistry brewing between these two characters right after that. Their conversation about their supposed dates, even though the date is with each other, is awkwardly heartwarming considering both sides to Grant's personality are so polarizing and is enough to convince Lucy that he's not the Ghost at this point. The Doctor then goes back to the research centre, only then to be conveniently rescued by Nardole. They bicker like an elderly couple over why he was reassembled, and then they start wandering around the other research centre in what I assume is Tokyo. I did find it quite funny how he claimed to have distracted them all with Pokemon. I know I'm easily distracted by Pokemon. On to the next place though, and we see the pair sipping on what I assume is tea 5 times in the space of 11 seconds. Why? We will probably never know. The other pair's date doesn't seem to be going well due to her thinking he's somebody else and can't quite seem to connect the dots.
What's wrong with me?
Suddenly one is aware of staring into the face of an old friend.
No, look, seriously, could you just...
The Doctor and Nardole then arrive on the spaceship armed and ready for New York. Anybody else smell a waft of familiarity here?
You're stage managing an alien attack when the aliens have already landed.
But why?
Because of what happens next when everyone thinks that the Earth is being attacked from space. What then?
Mass panic.
They want the whole world panicking because you lot, you get scared, you lash out.
They release the defense codes.
And the Slovene go nuclear.
But why?
A few hours later, every politician and commander-in-chief will have a zip in their head.
Oh, like these guys? So then the Doctor pushes some buttons and the building then seals itself up, bracing for impact. Now, I understood earlier on that those pieces of glass would be able to withstand a nuclear explosion. Or 2. Or 4. So why did this extra layer of metal even need to be considered if the place could withstand 4? You know what? I need a drink. A long, stiff drink to make me forget about this frustrating experience. Thank God we only have 1 year left of this muppet. The Doctor then magically communicates to Grant that the ship is headed their way, where, unsurprisingly, Grant stops the ship in place, waiting to throw it back into the sky. Aesthetically, I'd say this part was really cool, but by this point, I think I've just given up. I'm growing bored of this shit, and I can't believe I'm still finding things to talk about by this point, quite frankly. After UNIT arrive at the Harmony Shoal headquarters, however, I thought I'd share this bit here, where one of the soldiers' pieces of dialogue is out of sync with the picture.
And he was like this when you found him?
Yes, sir.
And he was like this when you found him?
Yes, sir.
The last few words from the Doctor were tame and rubbish, whilst Nardole explains to us, again, some information we already know about. The Doctor's finally grieving for his wife. I guess it must be difficult for him, but this episode wasn't exactly centered on him at all with regards to his emotions. They threw a few references in there every now and again, but not enough for me to really care much, because this explanation is just slapped on the end like it's some kind of reason for the Doctor's behaviour. But to me, he's no different than any other time I've watched him, really. We've moved on from River Doc, and you should too. It's for the best, seriously. I mean, I'm trying my hardest to put all of this behind us too. Let's just pray this year's series will be one to remember this time, yeah? So, did it suck? Ugh, where to begin? Okay, it was pretty much like last year, really. It had a few very watchable moments, but the majority of it was just garbage. There were some humorous moments in there, but some just fell flat on their face. And that segment in the apartment when Grant was on the phone was the only part that really stood out to me as anything truly interesting throughout. The decision to make this episode surrounding superheroes was a bad one from the start. To me, it doesn't fit well with the format of the show. It was unoriginal, boring, annoying, and if this is how the 10th series is going to kick off, well, I am praying for some swift adjustments to be made before it's released. I give The Return of Dr. Mysterio a 3 out of 10. When we see the kid's room, completely covered in Marvel wallpaper and a superhero. To put this into perspective, we are even thrown the whole The Doctor then leads a small child onto the roof of his building. It's so odd because there was a really funny moment that came before it, just because... I guess in America they don't teach kids not to take For some reason, Nardole is here too, and slows the pace of the scene down considerably with his bizarre question about this little boy's arm.
Oh my god, why can't I do this?
And one could argue that we learn more about them. Now, I understood earlier on that those pieces of glass would withstand a nuclear explosion. Or two.
Oh, fuck.
Attack of the burp. Alright, I'll try my best. You got... I don't know, mate. Don't you fucking know that? Oh yeah, she's an American.